Hello, welcome back. I hope you're all setting your diaries for iGaming Next New York, the 21st and 22nd of March next year. It is going to be lit. Right, now we're going to move on to a very exciting panel now. Historically, we've seen the industry look to compete and gain the competitive edge on gambling and its related products. But is gambling now becoming secondary to the customer? And should we now focus on the experience and community engagement to truly have trust in the brand and customer loyalty? Ladies and gents, to talk about the shift to an experiential first approach, it is a great pleasure to introduce your brilliant moderator and some fantastic guests to the next session. Please give a very, very warm, big, loud round of applause for the head of sales at Push Gaming, Fiona Hickey.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all here. I'm sure you were all very engaged by listening to Robin. We've got an awesome panel, so without further ado, I'm going to ask the other panelists to join me on stage. We have Robin Reid. Give him a round of applause. It's been a long time since he's been on stage. We have the wonderful Karolina Pelc. And the fabulous Tim Heath. And then joining us online, we should have Daniel Graetzer. Hi, Dan.
Hi there. How you doing? I feel like Big Brother up here.
Good to see you. So I know we've woken you up very early, so we do appreciate you joining us. We've just had a couple of great panels, so we're hoping to add to it. So without further ado, I'm just going to kick this off with you guys. So I think a lot of the theme of the last 2 days has been really talking about, customers' experience and loyalty and building brands around that. And I think what we're trying to kind of chat about today is our own take on it, and how we all think of it from a personal perspective, but also from a business perspective. So I'd just like to quickly ask you all to introduce yourselves, and then we'll go into chatting about the topic. Start with you, Tim.
Tim Heath from the Yolo group. Been working with poker and casino for 20 years and love understanding what the players want, given that I like being a player myself.
Absolutely. And to you, Karolina?
I'm Karolina Pelc. I'm the founder of Shared Play, as of today BeyoundPlay, which I'd like to highlight because we just rebranded this morning. I am now in a startup building technology for multiplayer, but my experience is mostly with operators and suppliers working for the likes of LeoVegas, Betson, Scientific Games.
Perfect, thank you. Robin?
I'm Robin, the CEO of happyhour.io, a seed and early stage accelerator for iGaming.
Perfect. And finally, Dan.
Hi there, Daniel Graetzer, founder and CEO of Carousel Group, operator of MaximBet over in North America, currently trying to take on the world.
And certainly traveling a lot of us, I would say. So guys, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, and we've already done quite a bit in different sessions together, but I mean, we're a pretty established industry now, and like we kind of did with the intro, it's no longer just about gambling, and it's about creating the experience, it's about bringing more worlds together. I mean, in terms of how your businesses operate, where do you see this for what you're doing right now, but also where do you see it going over the next 3 years? We'll start with Karolina this time.
Oh, sure, no pressure. Yeah, I think, what we're trying to do at BeyoundPlay, and I'll keep forgetting, and I'll keep calling it Shared Play probably for the next month, is trying to capitalize on the same trend that Robin was talking about. I have the same belief that, the casino has always been social, and that element has been missed when it went into online, and whereas it's been accepted by the older, more traditional demographic, I think as we're moving towards the future and we're looking at next generation of players, the product needs to adapt. I come from a land-based casino background, so those things that Robin talked about, I've experienced firsthand. I worked in all kinds of VIP venues, cruise ships, where it's all about entertainment, and the games just don't happen without the social vibe, especially when it comes to craps tables. So I've always been missing this. And I think working for LeoVegas, where we were a mobile casino, we had a younger demographic, and we also were one of the very first ones to jump on the streaming phenomenon, working with casino grounds and launching games through stream. it was becoming very apparent that this is catching on, and this is becoming very different type of behavior, and their expectations are going to be different, especially for those who have not been exposed to land-based casino before. So they're looking at online gaming as just another means of entertainment, and in order to compete with other things, as Robin talked, now people are dividing their time between streaming, between podcasts, between listening to music. We need to have the product future-proof and fit for the purpose. And at the moment, I don't think it is sustainable for the long term.
Absolutely. And I think when we've had a couple of chats about this, we've kind of looked at the US and driving a lot of this, because obviously we've all seen what's been happening in the last couple of years and how crazy that's happening. Do you think that the obviously increase in states opening up in the US is helping to drive some of this to a kind of experiential approach and building your brand around that? Do you think it's challenging the European operators to be better? I mean, how do you think it all fits together, Robin?
Somebody mentioned on stage yesterday that Todd's vision of the big blue chip companies entering the iGaming space perhaps is already here with Disney. I'd say let's compete with them. Let's deliver an experience. We can do this better than anyone. When we're talking about delivering something experiential, let's forget about those little things like user journeys and a touch point here and a banner there and an optimized personal messages. Let's deliver an experience. When you go to Disney World, that's an experience. Casino is an adult Disney World. Have you ever been to Hard Rock in the Seminole Tribe in Florida? It's freaking fantastic. Let's bring this online. People these days, they don't want to go to a catalog. They don't want to go to a text site. Ready Player One. They want to go to somewhere where they can completely immerse themselves in the experience, immediately drop in whenever they like, drop out whenever they like, be there around other people, be there where there is video, where there is visual senses. That's what we need to deliver. We can do that better than anyone. So I'm not afraid and worried about the US giants coming in. I rather think we can show them how we should do it and work together with them and bring value.
Absolutely, and also all of us can learn together and make each other better and continue delivering a better experience for our customers and for the players. I mean, Tim, you are without a doubt a big fan yourself and poker player, etc. I mean, what do you think has been missing from a lot of what we've been doing in the last year that you can see really starting to emerge?
So I go back to the last 10 years. People forget that it's online, the barrier to leave a casino is so easy. It's one click away. As an operator, if we muck up and give someone a bad experience, they can click and go somewhere else and move money and go and play elsewhere. We need to nearly have the betting element as a secondary experience. The first is that entertaining experience, the community experience. Then, if they do want to bet, let them bet. The players need to feel a part of a brand. It's got to be authentic. It can't be fabricated. It's got to be. There's a reason they need to be there and be a part of the community. They want to be in touch with their friends and the chat bots and whatnot. I know there's a number of the recent crypto ones have these fantastic community things, but they have raindrops that someone who wins big, they want to share the love out everywhere else. It creates a community that then secondarily you can go and gamble as well. If we can create that and they become the fabric of the brand, then they will naturally come back because they've got this association. They've invested their time. This is not badges or tokens or Foursquare check-ins. Let them have an authentic experience and enjoy themselves.
And people believe in a brand. If we take away gambling and we look at everything, like other aspects of it, I mean, people shop in supermarkets that are more expensive than their competitors because they like the feel, they like the experience they get, whether it be a high-end boutique where someone recognises you or Tesco's over Morrison's in the UK. It's about creating that experience. Dan, you've obviously spent a lot of time in the US recently. You've been at G2E and obviously caught up with quite a few of the partners over there. What exciting things have you been seeing that you think is really starting to push the boundaries and we can try and adapt online as well? Because obviously, ultimately, that offline experience is what we're trying to replicate, that excitement of a table win and that immersive experience.
First, I couldn't agree more with some of the things we're talking about, especially what you've just mentioned, Tim. And just to give a bit of background on our story and why this is such a relevant topic. So last year, 2020, September, we launched sportsbetting.com in the US market. And what we realized very quickly is we had launched a generic sportsbook in a sea of generic sportsbooks. And we very quickly realized how important brand differentiation and the experience is. And so as we started looking into the market of, well, how do we define ourselves as an experiential brand? We started looking at partners. And outside of the gaming space, we're looking at, well, who does great events? Where do people want to go spend their time? What's zeitgeisty? If that's a real word, I'm sure we can make it one. And we identified Maxim as a really, really cool, interesting partner. They've been around for 25 years, and what they're known for now is their parties. Like if someone picks up the phone to you and says, do you want to come to the Maxim Super Bowl party? I'm on the next flight there. And we wanted to bring some of that excitement, but also some of that luxury into a gaming experience. And just like what Tim was saying, start with the experience, and then it leads into the entertainment and the betting and the online and the digital. So we very quickly realized that we can create a unique space. We can play in the blue ocean space by developing a brand that's experience-led. And part of what we're trying to do now is actually focus on the physical, of the real world, because that's where people live now. And despite maybe a lot of people spending too many months last year in their living room because of COVID, but people are getting back out there in the real world, and they want to feel and touch and be a part of something. And the best example really is right now, instead of focusing just on giving away $1,000 risk-free bets like most of our competitors are doing, we're throwing the coolest party in the US in 9 days. Now we've just confirmed Fat Joe's coming to sing.
Can we come? You sending a private jet for us? Yeah. I think that was part of this panel, right?
Come on over. You might even see me DJ a little bit. We'll see what happens there. But and this is what we're trying to do as a brand. It's create community, but create experiences that not only just online, not only just part of a loyalty program, but in the real world, because that's what people want. They want to be part of something that they can touch, feel, be a part of, be excited by.
Absolutely.
It could be a digital experience, of course, but offline also is a fantastic place to operate.
But based on this, it's very interesting. We've gone through years of having affiliate sites, we've had top 10 lists and whatnot. You've been brought to a casino based on some small call to action, and that was the differentiating feature why you've gone to its site. There's nothing behind that. It's a financial incentive. It goes back to rakeback wars. It's bullshit. If you say we're building this wonderful experience with a land-based party or whatnot, people aspire to be a part of that. They feel part of it. They want to grow towards it. Get them on there. You've brought this player who's going to have longer lifetime value. You don't need as many FTDs. I mean,
it might cost a lot to acquire these players, but if they stay with you forever, then obviously that has been worthwhile. And if we look at the operators, they understand what they're doing or how they're building this and making it an experience. What part can suppliers play in this to be more proactive? Because the reality is a lot of this is slightly kind of led by operators, and I mean in the traditional sense of suppliers. What can we do to push that boundaries to facilitate kind of the fact that this is the way we're going?
What I wanted to add as well is that I think it's important to highlight that the games in its own, they were not lacking the experience. It was always about the experience. I mean, the amount of design work, about win animations, the sound, sync, and everything, that's an experience of its own. What I'm trying to say is that I think we've evolved from there with the new consumption, and particularly for the demographics that Robin talked about, where community came into play, social media came into play, and the fact that 2.2 billion people play video games, and that demographic is dominating. And then you've got Twitch on top of that, which has basically replaced the traditional TV for the demographic of 18 to 25s, and it's more popular than Netflix, it's more popular than HBO, they watch it for longer, and it's no longer a trend either. It's something that is staying and is not going away, and people who think that Twitch is trend, I think they're wrong, because we see that, many people have never had a TV, and they just don't consider putting on a traditional channel, right?
Yeah.
So I think that evolution, and it happened particularly in the last 2-3 years, that's what makes it really critical for the products to adapt. And to answer your question from a supplier side, what we are trying to do is be a B2B business, but at the same time create a B2C awareness and build a community around our product, because we want to differentiate on demand. We want players to go to operators and look for our product, rather than just be completely at mercy of an operator deal and operator execution.
But there must be more that suppliers can do as well. I mean, we talked about, like when you were talking, Robin, in your presentation, I mean, no one has reinvented the wheel when it comes to slots, okay? Like, I work for Push, we make the best slots out there. I'm obviously going to say that, and every other slots company says the same. But what can we do to be part of this, to lead it more than we are? Because I don't believe the suppliers are playing enough of a role in it, personally.
So always tell people to not monologue, right? Because if you remember the classical scene from superheroes, you have the superhero, the villain, just about to beat the superhero, and then he goes on monologuing, and then the superhero beats him. So I'll try to not monologue, because I'm going to go on a long reasoning. But Daniel, I think I might need to borrow your private jet. Because to answer your question,
we'll go
Fiona, yeah, there is. I said in my earlier speech that there is one element that we never managed to translate to online casino, which is the social. But there is a second element. Let's look at what they did in the land-based sphere to amplify their proposition. If you go back a few decades in Vegas, it was primarily slot machines and table games, right? And then there wasn't too many families around. There wasn't too much of a wider demographics around. And suddenly you had Britney Spears playing there every day for a long period of time. You had Jerry Seinfeld shows. They created a family destination, right? What have we done with that online? Nothing, right? And that's where I might need your private jet. Because why don't game providers start to look at this in a less protective manner? What can we do to amplify the content? What can we do to expand on the content?
Absolutely.
I work with a fantastic audio guy called Willie Wilcox. He's been around for ages, working with the largest musicians. He did the Michael Jackson slot, the Willy Wonka slot, and he taught me something very interesting. You saw in Decentraland there was a DJ playing. Somebody created a Deadmo 5 slot content game, and I asked, like, why did they choose these musicians? Why did they choose DJs? And he told me, they have something in common with slots. What a DJ does is that he builds anticipation. The actual drop of a DJ, where it takes off and we all go dancing, that's only 4 or 5 minutes of a whole hour. That's the same with slots. Okay, why don't we bring these people online? We go to game providers like you. Maybe you can open up your APIs. Maybe you can share a little bit of your revenues. Maybe we can spend some of that money in videos such as what you just saw and what Karolina and many others in this room will make over the coming years. Perhaps we can have stand-up comedians, perhaps we can have musicians there, and we can amplify the whole experience and create events online. That's an experience I want, and I want to work together with the game providers on it.
Sorry if I can just add to that, which Robin takes, the point I would like to add to is that the experience these days, it's not just transactional. People don't want to have to spend money to be able to experience something. And the model of, land-based, bringing big DJs to the clubs, then to the casino, that has been working for years on the cruise ships. The way the sort of cruise ship is built is all around casino to push the traffic from dinner to theater through the casino, because nobody wants to go on a cruise, which is a gambling cruise. They want to go on the experience, and then the gambling is a side effect and the revenue generator.
It becomes secondary, and that's exactly what we're talking about. You go to Vegas for your holiday, and you might gamble or you might not.
But you can go there and you can spectate, right? You can be there for free, you can be part of the experience, you can contribute towards the vibe, and that's what's replicated on streams, but it's not replicated in the game experience, because game is very transactional, event is very solitary, so you can only participate in the anticipation and the thrill if you make a financial bet. So I think with this whole trend of people watching and treating the stream watching as a very passive experience, something that they need to make less commitment towards, and something that they need to focus less and commit less to, allow them to do that in games as well, which is what we're trying to do. We want to open up the games to non-betting customers as well. And as crazy as it may sound from a commercial perspective, then comes spectator monetization. And if you do it right, it's your natural cross-sell and acquisition tool.
For sure.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, so I just want to say on this, so I'm very lucky within our group to be a part-time VIP host. And
part-time VIP host?
Yeah, got a job.
You look great in a VIP host jacket, like a little gold spangly number.
I enjoy it, so I go along and I get to meet a lot of our VIPs. And the most interesting thing, they want to know how we run a sports book, how we run a casino, what we're doing, what's behind the curtains. And I love talking about it, and they love asking me how the odds are working and set and risk managed and whatnot. Actually bringing them into the world and being very honest with them how it all works. Absolutely. They are gamblers. They know there's a chance to win and probably long-term lose, but teaching them about what we do brings them closer to being a part of the fabric of our brand. And I feel after every event, I've got a VIP for life and a friend, But we know there's a business relationship. They're going to gamble if they win $1 million, I'm going to pay them in a minute. It's as easy as that. Following on from this, I had an idea. Why don't we make a land-based casino and a casino on a boat, and then we have our live dealer studio for high rollers, and if you then come to a casino, have your Michelin star restaurant, have your karaoke, have your experience, and then play, you're playing with the same dealers in person, and then when you go back to Tokyo, you're then playing online with the same dealers. And the first question is, hi, how was your flight home? And you've built this relationship with the player that they feel they're invested into the brand. And again, you've got to play for life.
They'll stay with you for life. But this isn't new. I mean, if we look at bingo, this has been happening in bingo for like 15, 20 years. It's been around and we're just now embracing it. If I'm to go back to you, Dan, and kind of look specifically at the sports side of things, because obviously I know that that's kind of where your expertise is coming from, having been in these awesome sports bars in the States and being part of that atmosphere and having that buzz, what piece would you guys really like to add to continue this going forward and to make a better experience for your partners, so it really is the gambling is the second piece to it. It's not just about whether you're going to win your sports bet or not.
From my perspective and our perspective as Carousel Group, MaximBet, we believe and we're experimenting with the paradigm shift in economics. And the way I can best explain it is the majority of the market out there, and especially when you start looking at the acquisition spend in the US space, the investment is so upfront, right? It's so front loaded and then tails right off. We're looking at completely flipping that. And this, coming back to your question about, how does everyone benefit from this, the operators and the suppliers? In our case, what we're looking to do is invest heavily on the retention and the loyalty. And that all comes out through experiences. What that means is we need partners that can help increase the experience so that our players have a better experience. We're investing in events, which means suppliers around us and entertainment and spaces. They all get a piece of the action as well. We're also doing some really innovative deals in the NIL space as well in the US, which is name, image, likeness, which is something pretty specific to the US at the moment. And we believe that by investing heavily into the experience itself, that becomes the acquisition channel, right? So
100%. If you fly me on your private jet, I'll never bet anywhere else again, just FYI.
As long as I can film it and put a hashtag on it, it's all good. It comes all the way back around and becomes an acquisition channel for us.
But I mean, even with events, we all can see here, it is, you're not just here for the conference, for the networking. The differentiator for the industry is the overall experience. The dinners that you'll go to, the parties that will happen around, the venue itself. So if experiences is what draws us into products, why would it be different for players? And
you're making your brand an entertainment brand. It's no longer a gambling brand. It's about the entire aspect of it. It's going to amazing restaurants. It's going on that nice flight. I think what you're doing is particularly interesting about that, because actually I think that's been missed a lot. People have kind of been saying, okay, we're going away from the traditional casinos, and they're not particularly amazing in the UK, for example. But if you have these experiential casinos,
if we can give someone a 6-star experience on a super yacht, and I'll take a $100,000 baccarat bet. You've got them. Again, it's the experience is nearly more utopian than the actual gambling. It's outweighing what the actual gambling part. It's secondary. It needs to be.
And they also then, as you say, they become your friends, don't they? And it's really difficult to change when you're very loyal to that person, and that loyalty stays. So the cost per acquiring these customers is undoubtedly higher and is probably going to continue increasing, particularly if you look at these markets. But then they are your player for life. So it's worth this.
Fiona, I disagree to that. Behind CPAs, there is obviously competitiveness. The more people that want to buy traffic, the more they increase. But let's not forget that there is another very important element to the CPA's cost, which is the potential outreach. When you've produced a marketing message, your CPA will be according to how many people that is actually interested in it. And when CPAs are increasing in our industry, perhaps we should realize the fact that it's getting more saturated and the competition is increasing, but we aren't increasing the outreach. And why aren't we increasing the outreach? Well, it's obviously because people these days, they want authenticity, they want reliability, they want community experiences, they want augmented experiences where they can create. We have not catered to this yet, but what we have seen is that those who have started catering to that are achieving ridiculously low CPAs. I can take countless examples of people that have managed to put like a flat fee of X and Y onto a social media platform and has gotten 5,000 and 10,000 FTD suddenly because they had the right message that resonated with the audience and connected with people. And if you look at our industry, let's say when we change the RTP, are the game providers displaying the RTP? Tim does on his sites. It's awesome. Perhaps we should too. But how can we expect this audience that is now thinking about the meaning they're contributing to the world when they're spending their money, reliability? You know, it's just a tiny example that perhaps illustrates a larger problem, in which is that our message isn't entirely reliable yet. It isn't shaped to the audiences that we're trying to reach for the future. And if we change that together, then I think those CPAs perhaps can start to drop again.
But I think some operators are scared to be completely transparent. They're scared that if they do something transparently, players will lose. It's so easy to go somewhere else. We like showing the live RTP of the 24-hour. This game is hot, this game is cold. Mathematically, that's not really the case, but this is the endorphins coming through again. People like to see that. They're getting inside the brand. It's a transparent brand. There's nothing to hide. If you win, you're paid immediately. That's what it should all be about.
I wanted to follow up on the experiences part as well, because I'm cautious that we don't get into thinking that creating experiences for players is organizing parties for them. If you are MaximBet, you can organize parties because that's the brand that you've got, and it's aligned, it holistically connects. If you're an operator that has nothing to do with events, and you don't have that 360 approach, players might not want to be at your parties, because it's about being the experience yourself. I mean, we've run so many promotions many years ago where we've organized gamble events at BetSafe, VIP car racing, cruises. Players didn't want to come. So I think it also depends very much about the demographic and the countries, because you'll have countries like Sweden and Nordics where the gambling isn't perceived as a hosting type of gambling company. So those players might not want to be part of this experience, and especially not when it's a VIP experience, because the VIP players usually are not your typical perceived VIP. But in the US, it's very different, particularly for sportsbook companies, because it's seen as such entertainment. Thankfully to DraftKings, FanDuel, and the fantasy sports operator who have normalized to talk about sports betting and treat it as entertainment. These guys pave the way for others to come in and start to be experience brands. Casino brands, I think it's more difficult for, because it's not that easy to say to your friends, you're going on a casino cruise,
and that
whatever.
It's about changing that. It's not about getting players from a competitor. It's about bringing in a new demographic of player. Absolutely, Robin.
I don't know, we were singing karaoke at the blackjack table last night with some mates, and we had a lot of fun as a casino experience. I'm not sure about the other tables around us, but we had fun.
I believe in the experiences. I'm just saying that it cannot be only about the physical experience, that it's an add-on to your just traditional experience, right? And then there's also the online experience. Our tagline in BeyoundPlay is, come for the game, stay for the party. So we want to create the experience without having the physical. We don't have budget to create this massive, sponsored events in the US, but we think we can create the vibe in the session itself with the right tools
so
and facilitating
of course.
social connection.
Robin, what were you going to say?
Yeah, but it's not. So I heard this hypothesis that people don't want to share their online gambling experience. In fact, I catered to it. When we created Donker back in the days, it was because we believed that people didn't want to share their poker winnings and hands with their grandmother on Facebook, right? So we needed a social network for that. But the more I thought about it, I don't think it's correct. Because when I go to a land-based casino, or when my friends go to a land-based casino and something happens, a story happens, it's not frowned upon to talk about that. You can go into the most conservative room in the world and people will still be a little bit intrigued and interested when somebody's telling a story. You wouldn't be ashamed of that. What you see in popular culture, in movies, no. So I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem with online is that if I've been sitting up 4 hours between 11 o'clock and 3 a.m. at night playing alone, even if I win, am I going to share this, replay online on my social network?
You might have a few people call and check that you're okay if you're posting these videos at 3 a.m. Like we all know that when you see someone go crazy on social media too late at night. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I would even be concerned. But what if that was an experience, right? Big thing happened a few days ago. Crazy time, I believe it was 13 million win, and has that gone viral online? Certainly. If you were part of that experience, of course you would share it, and it wouldn't be dangerous, it would be completely kosher. Why? because you took part in a social community, many other people did it, you're validated, and therefore you can share it, and that's what we need to cater to.
You got lucky, and you want to share that you got lucky. You beat the house.
And everybody likes to get lucky, right? So that's cool.
I mean, everyone shares when they're lucky. No, it's when we're talking about all the countless of losses that we've had to go through in order to get there.
But everyone's got FOMO of someone else getting lucky, and I think that is what the key to gambling is all about, and the sharing of the gambling. But the topic is about this, what's the word again?
Experiential.
Experiential. So maybe we're thinking about it in the wrong way. Maybe we're trying to create this content on a casino site, template, Excel, sports. Maybe we need to be putting the sportsbook onto an ESPN.com. Maybe the sportsbook is simply, here's an article about Arsenal Southampton, there's my 1x2, little insert, there's my MetaMask wallet, my money's in, the bet's done by the gaming section. If I win, it's paid straight back out to MetaMask. That is my gambling experience. 95% is content, video, podcast. Maybe that brings the experiential experience
that would
to
be wonderful
else.
if regulators let us do stuff like this, right?
Well, you could, because that is the gambling site just down the bottom there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're actually changing how our sites traditionally look and feel, and completely
We're putting gambling
changing it.
on a content site, on a ESPN.com.
Yeah.
We're moving gambling to other entertainment portals.
You're taking it like visionary. I would start to allow people to make bets on a live casino roulette in between their sports bets, which most of the operators still cannot facilitate
Some might be able
because
to
the
see.
launch is too slow, it doesn't open up, the technology doesn't stack up. And I mean, in a land-based venue, especially in the US, you're watching the sports, you're betting live there, and then you run to bet because you see your number coming up, or 20 reds in a row, or whatever, We still can't facilitate for that online.
What we're going to do for an Indian live dealer game is you're playing your simple game, but you have a stream of the cricket, and you have a sports book there as well. So when the end of the over, you then play the game, but then you're back watching the game, the cricket game as well. We're bringing sports betting and live dealer together. I don't know if it's going to work,
guys,
but it's cool.
we could talk about this and come up with ideas all day, and I think we all enjoyed these conversations, but we are down to our last 5 minutes, in fact slightly under. So for our last kind of point, I'd like to ask you guys, where would you like to see us be if we're back here in 12 months' time? So obviously we've had your amazing presentation, Robin. We know Karolina's doing some great stuff in the space. You're doing some really exciting stuff. Dan's flying around the world on private jets, having a great time. I mean, where would we all like to be, whether it be our businesses or the industry? And you can answer either part of that question. Where would you like us to have seen the changes be in 12 months' time? Start with you first, Dan.
Well, what Tim was saying there is actually what's happening over here in the US and Canada now as Ontario regulates. The line between entertainment, sports, fans and gambling is very blurred now. I think that the term that gets thrown around a lot now is fan engagement. And that's what the leagues are trying to do over here in the US with their involvement in sports betting and the data rights and now the war that's going on between data providers. It's that the worlds are all colliding, and it's really incredible to watch. I saw at the Sports Business Journal conference last week in New York, Disney actually talking about their plans for ESPN, exactly what you're talking about, Tim. Look at the Yahoo portal they've done, right, for gambling. The worlds are all colliding together, and it's an incredible experience for the fans. So the leagues, real data, OTT, which is digital over-the-top television display, streaming merging together with live odds, pre-game presentations with odds being discussed. I mean, the US has used odds for years in the way that they report on the likelihood of things happening, right? Presidential elections over here in the US, they don't talk about political pundits, they show the odds of how likely it is that Trump has just become the favorite to win the Republican nominee, right? And that's based on bookmakers setting odds for it. So for me, this world is just going to get more and more mashed up together, and it's super exciting. It just creates this one big holistic sports, entertainment, gambling experience.
That's the
where I
perfect
want to
word.
be.
Absolutely. We're really running down time, so I'm going to jump to you quickly, Robin.
Well, I don't have anything to say on that, Fiona.
You've nothing to say.
I got you. So
I mean,
I think
I heard gasps from the back of the room.
No, I see a big red number in front of me, 214, 213. I'll make it very short. Mega brands are coming in, large blue chip companies. Let's learn from them. They built companies over decades. They learned how to treat their customers, how to deal with their customers. Let's take what we know and understand and speak with these companies about how we can create a better proposition as a holistic proposition. I think if we can get there within the next 12 months, then all the regulation you see across the world might go a little bit more towards the direction we want. And I think the most important aspect of that conversation got to be that we got to create experiences. Okay? Don't create a catalog that is there to turn the most possible money out of a consumer. Try to deliver an entertainment proposition, whether it's sports, bingo, esports, or all of it, that consumers really want. So even though they spent, I don't know, a few €100 per year on gambling, they feel great about it.
Absolutely. Perfect. Karolina?
As I don't have that much to add to this, I'm going to make it a bit self-oriented. So next year, in 12 months, I'd like to stand here after the launch of the product and talk about the learnings, the successes and the failures, so I can sit next to Robin being somewhat equal, because at the moment, I'm a little bit behind with being in the same space. And also I want to be zooming in from US, because I want to be getting ready for Daniel's party.
Me too. Awesome. And finally, Tim?
I want to see operators stop being lazy and get rid of first-time deposit bonuses and think about what the customer actually wants and what builds that relationship with a customer. And you've got to actually think, and you've got to do it, and it's hard. But don't take the easy way out, because we're so far behind.
Short-term
what
pain
others
for
are doing.
long-term gain,
Yeah,
right?
but it's scary, but you've got to do it.
And I think the best word that's actually come out of these last 2 minutes is holistic, and that's what we need to create. We need to be part of a holistic sector where everyone can share in it and be part of it, and gambling is just, as we say, secondary. Guys, listen, I could honestly talk all day, as everyone knows, but I really appreciate all the ideas and thoughts that we've had here on stage. And Dan, thank you so much for getting up early to join us. Give them a round of applause, guys.